glad to present again on gender issues. So I have come to know that many of you are interested, very interested in the topic, and some of you are even specialized in a way or another in the topic. So I'm looking forward to your contribution, to your participation, and to have a fruitful discussion, inshallah. So when I was asked to write about or to present about ethics and Maqasid in contemporary gender studies and to give a comparative overview, for me the topic was so wide. So I decided to talk on Islamic feminism because I do believe that it is like reflecting a case for applied Islamic ethics. It stands as a model for that, with all the challenges associated with applying Islamic ethics on reality. I will not say Islamic feminist because some of them just identify themselves as Muslim scholars in the fields of religious studies. So I'm just going to go with that, and for the time being. And before I start, also, I would like you to have like a small exercise. So whenever you look at the quote, I would appreciate if you look at it from the point of view, like as if you are in, as we said in women's studies, we always look at the context. You always read between the lines to see why is she saying that. What she actually means. You contextualize, try to contextualize what she is saying, because when doing that, then you will know from where she's coming from and where she's heading. And this is so important because it sheds lights on her contribution in the field. Okay? So maybe I can just start quickly because I have only 1 hour and I have a long presentation. So I will just one sentence, 3 chances. For one sentence, what do you know about what is Islamic feminism? One sentence. One sentence. Any of you? Just in one sentence. What is Islamic? Yes?
Women are autonomous beings.
So this is what about, okay. So this is what Islamic feminism is about. What Islamic feminism is?
Islamic vision about philosophy.
Okay.
Empowerment.
Okay.
Pursuit of God consciousness through female empowerment.
I like that, huh?
Gender justice based upon Islamic values.
Okay, that's good. Sorry? God's mercy.
I think mercy of God.
Okay.
Equality before God.
Equality. Yes, please.
Intellectual and moral equality.
Okay.
And women's rights.
And women's rights.
Part of human dignity.
Okay. Okay, so you will all find yourself on what is coming. Okay, so I will start with the quotes. And as I said, as I tell you, as an exercise, please try to reread it the way I describe it to you. Okay, so we'll start with Amina Wadud, the most controversial. Okay, so she said, 2 names most consistently hurled at me are Western and feminism, and feminist. So Western could mean that I can only be who I am, a daughter of the West, born and raised American of African descent. It is reduced, however, to mean anti-Islam. And feminist is used in a similar reductionist manner. No reference is ever made to the definition of feminism as a radical notion that women are human beings. Okay? So you see, she's so bold, too bold. So the other one is Umayma Abu Bakr. So Umayma Abu Bakr said, Islamic feminism allows me to qualify my own indigenous brand of feminism and work out a feminist discourse stemming from within culture and religion. And this is Islamic ethics of feminism. Okay? And the third one, Zainab Alwani, she said, in defining equality, it is important to make a distinction here between being identical and being equal. Islam recognizes that men and women have different abilities and strengths that complement each other. They differ physically and emotionally, but their differences do not lead one gender to be superior to the other. While men and women are considered equals, and this is a very important part of the quote, when men and women are considered equal in God's sight, they have different roles to play in their life as they each seek to live according to God's will. Okay? So we will come at the end to see your reflections and how you read these quotes. So, the questions. So, what is Islamic feminism? Who are the Muslim feminists? What is Islamic about their thought? And is it in any way related to higher objectives of Islam and Islamic ethics? Okay, so before I go to explain or to start these questions, I would like to just give a general definition for feminism worldwide. So there is different brands and different stance of feminism around the world. And actually, the definition for the boundaries of what is considered a feminist is still debatable. So, as Bell Hooks used to say, and she's a black feminist, she said, feminism is a theory in the making. So, it is still in the making, it is still under development. And actually, because of the questioning of global sisterhood, which is based on the sameness of women oppression, based on individualism, based on considered gender as the main or the sole reason for women oppression, because there are so many other women who object with this understanding, Western, of course, between two brackets, or white between two brackets, definition of feminism. Because of that, we have other brands. We have black women, we have African women, we have women of color, we have third world women, and we have Muslim women. So all of them, they are working for one cause, against women oppression, for the betterment of women's lives. They use different strategies, they look at the problems differently, and they tackle it in different ways. Okay, so we move back. So when we are talking to what is Islamic feminism, so actually when we are talking or trying to define what is Islamic feminism, we are bringing two complex factors together. It is Islam and it is feminism, two overloaded. With all what is around Islam, with all what is around feminism, we are bringing them together so you can understand what we are talking about. And so Islamic feminism is like a knowledge project which is like launched by Muslim women, in the 90s, and its aims, these Muslim women are faithful, are committed to their religious faith, and are working towards the production of alternative, gender-sensitive religious knowledge. But why are they doing this? Why they want to do that? Why? What is the problem? So, because their main argument is that they believe that Islam has granted women so many rights, but these rights have been denied by the dominant patriarchal man-made readings of the Quran. Okay? So for them, these readings are either, for some of them, irrelevant for our current time. For others, they distort the spirit of Islam. Okay? So some of them also, in addition to working within the paradigm of knowledge, some of them also accept the principle of gender equality as stipulated in the human rights documents. So actually, interrogate the meaning of feminism, they problematize religious knowledge, and they question the meanings of modernity. So mainly they want to go beyond the patriarchal interpretations, as I said, to provide like a new meanings of gender roles in the nusus, which is non-patriarchal, and as opposed to the readings provided by the Islamic jurisprudence. Let us now try to provide some of the definitions provided by feminists themselves to this. So Badran in 2008, she defined Islamic feminism as a discourse of gender equality that derives its mandate from the Quran and seeks rights and justice for all human beings. And she further argues that gender equality is integral to Islamic feminist notion of equality of all insan or mankind. So transcending tribe, class, ethnicity, and race. And the definition provided by Muallim in 1999, and I believe this is this is a more comprehensive and more deep one, because it's not only showing what Islamic feminism is about, but it also shows the challenges which are facing Islamic feminism as a knowledge project. So she said Islamic feminism is a transnational resistance project formed against subjugation of Islamic fundamentalism, Western global feminism, and it unsettles the dichotomies of secular, religious, tradition, modernity, Islam, and the West. And I would like to draw your attention to a very important point here when we talk about Islamic feminism as transnational resistance project. When we use the word transnational, it's actually going beyond using it in terms of borders or in terms of boundaries, indicating like from national to international. It is even beyond that. It refers to a knowledge project, which is based on the local knowledge production. That means here is Islam, which is capable to be transmitted outside. So this is when we talk about transnational, it is in this sense. So there are, as other feminisms, there are a lot of variety, a lot of contributions from the Islamic feminists. But they all refer to religious knowledge. So I'm going to present them, to present part of their contributions. First, I'm going to group them into 4 groups. I am avoiding intentionally to put a description. I'm not going, because in the literature you find a lot, like this is a traditionalist, these are modernist, these are pragmatist, these are what, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to describe each group, okay, and to provide what their contribution is. And it is left for you as another exercise, okay, to give them the names as from where you are coming from, as you think from where they are coming from. So you get my point, okay? Okay, fair. So group 1 believe that existing model of gender relations presented by the dominant jurisprudence school is a correct model that should be adopted, and it is based on the divine and the sacred sources of Quran and Sunnah. Some members of these groups are members of in the Islamic political movements, and the Islamic political movements, as we know, their main their main goal is like to have power, like to establish the Islamic State. This is their main priority. And although they give women who are members of the political Islamist movement, they are very visible in political public life. But again, because of the nature of the project, the whole project itself, they rejected gender equality, and they consider it as a Western import and is a Western obsession. And so we should shouldn't distract us Muslims from following our duty as it is and commands of God as they are conveyed in the Quran and Sunnah. Okay? So this is one group. The other groups, in contrast, adopt a deconstructionist approach. So, and they call it post-foundationalist Islamic feminism. Okay? So, for them, they want to revisit the Islamic thought based on secularism. Okay? So for them, Islamic feminism is not a field of research restricted to Muslim men or Muslim women. It is open to all researchers who have this kind of commitment. And the adjective Islam or Islamic is maintained here not to describe an identity or a faith position. Okay? But it is retained to describe a scholarship committed to deconstruction construction of Islamic thought, as I said, through secular critique. And the Quranic precepts must be seen as a function of social dynamics, okay, rather than a fixed text, which is for them legitimizing rigid patriarchal claims. Okay, so you see each group from where they are coming and where they are heading. As in the previous discussion, what is the source and what is the objectives and what are the means? So we move. So this is what I'm not going to, because they are self-evident, I don't need to explore what they are saying. It's clear what they are saying from this outline. What I'm going to explain more in the group, a third group and the fourth group. So group 3 are those who are engaged with Islamic sacred text and its interpretive tradition, and they primarily question gender justice and methodological reform, and their aim is to revisit dominant religious interpretations that are discriminatory against women and aim to produce a new knowledge that makes case for gender equality and justice from within the Islamic paradigm, but again with reference to the universal human rights. Okay, so this is the third group. The fourth group, those who believe that a movement for reform should come from within only. Go back to Quran and Sunnah and develop true alternative that is completely based on Islam and Maqasid al-Sharia, and that can be used applicable worldwide. Okay, so this is the fourth group. So, and before I go into like the contributions among the two, group 3 and group 4, I will just like to say a very important note about feminist methodology. When doing research in feminist methodology, feminist aims to make visible women's experiences for the purpose of producing alternative understanding that improve women's lives. So, and this is like against the positivist paradigm in social science, so doing research in social science which concentrate like on objectivity, value, free knowledge, neutrality. So this is not working for feminist studies or women's studies. They always, because the critique they are saying about the positivist approach is that they ignore contextual analysis. They ignore the influence of gender, the influence of race, religion, ethnicity in knowledge production. And that is why they are against it. Okay? So, for the Islamic feminist methodology, so they are using the same. Again, they are referring to women's experiences, and some of them advocated hermeneutics and discourse analysis. Some of them focus on contextual analysis, so it is not Islam as such that determine the woman's status, but it is the context, the other political, social, economic issues, and of course power relations which are existing at a point of time. And even within this group, you will find like differences, because some of them will use the contextual analysis to arrive at like a conclusion saying that the Quran is a historical document and we need to move on, and some of them will use it in another sense, saying that this, for example, interpretation of this verse or that verse, this happens because at that point of time the political system was this, and the fuqaha were subjected to this, and the social system was this. So, and the others, of course, focus on Islamic ethics and higher objectives of Quran. So they are different, using different methodologies. Now I will go to the contributions, and I will try to be fast. So I will start with Amina Wadud. Of course, Amina Wadud is the most controversial person. I will provide here 4 contributions for 4 people, 4 scholars. Amina Wadud, Umayma Abu Bakr, and Zainab Alwani, and Muna Abul Fadl. Okay, so I hope this will like give a general idea about what are they doing and what they are saying. So I will start with Amina Wadud. So Amina Wadud is one of the pioneers in the field, and she's known, of course, for her controversial act of leading a mixed gender prayer, both in New York and in Cape Town. And actually, this act, I think, was enough for many Muslims just to describe her as anti-Islamic because of that, as she said in the first quote when I quoted her. So Amina Wadud just provided a very simplistic model based on the theological principle of a tawheed, the unity and oneness of Allah. And her model rests on 4 central things. Her model is to explain the relationship between, cannot use something here. So her model is to explain the relationship between the human and God, and the human and other humans. So for her, this is based on the following. God is the one and the just. Okay? Human beings are in vertical relationship with God. So human beings are all in vertical relationship with God. But human beings are in horizontal relationship with each other. So, and for her, that any kind of vertical relationship between humans is a negation of the oneness of Allah. Is a negation of a tawheed. Okay? Because here you are against the human being submission to the divine. And then she tried to put this down or to apply it.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. Can you repeat?
Okay.
No, I get that model, but then you said something that I totally missed.
Yeah. She said that humans are in horizontal relations with each other. The only vertical relation is with the humans and God, Allah. Okay? So, if for any reason, for any discriminative reason, okay, because of gender or because of race or because of whatever other discriminatory reason, okay, the relation between human and human instead of this vertical shape, takes instead of the horizontal shape, it takes the vertical shape, then this is against tawheed for her. Okay? Then this is negation of human being submission to the divine. Okay? And then she moved on to collapse this to the reality of women conditions. And she talked about patriarchy in the simplest form is men domination, men being superior to women. So for her, this is not right. This is wrong. And she connected even to another concept. She connected to the concept of istikbar. she connected to the concept of istikbar, which is the satanic notion of istikbar, thinking of oneself better than the other, as mentioned in the Quran. So for her, this shouldn't be like the relation should be of equality between all men and women, between all people, not only men and women. So, and she talked about the concept of istikhlaf, and she referred also to قوله تعالى إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. So for her, the Khalifa, the moral agent, and as Khalifa, as trustees of Allah, we are supposed to practice our moral agency and our roles as moral agency, and we have the choice to do good and to do bad, but if we have to fulfill our destiny as moral agents, then we have to follow justice. We have to be just. And then another concept also, which she got from this model, simplest model, in terms of the relationship with human to humans. So here, she's not only talking about the relationship between men and women, no, she's talking about the relationship among the family, the relationship among the society, the relationship among the tribe, the relationship among nations. Okay? And she is also referring to Quran, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "O humankind, have taqwa before you, Lord, before your Lord, who created all of you from a single source and created from its mate and spirit from the two countless men and women." And to other verse which is saying, "O humankind, we created you from male and female and make you into nations and tribes so that you know one another." So she is referring to these two concepts to explain the relations between men and women, between people, between nations, as it is described in Quran. And it is a relationship which is based on equality. And then she moved this discussion to the ground in terms of feminist thought. So when she talks about this kind of relationship in society, when feminists talk about society, one of the main things which they are always referring to, which lead to women's subjugation and women's subordinate position, is the binary of the public and the private sector. So women are assigned to the home, and men are assigned to the field of the public life and governance and policy making. So for her, this idea of having this plurality concept in Islam, there is, as per this idea, there is no double standard in Islam. There is nothing called public and private. Since what distinguishes people is the moral excellence, is the taqwa. So people are supposed to perform their role, whether it's man or woman, whether in the private sector, whether in the public sector. So there is no double standard. Quran didn't say women stay here or men stay here. Okay, so this is how she explained it. So women can be in the public sector and men can be in the private sector. There is no double standard, since we are all moral agents or trustees of Allah who are practicing our moral excellence, taqwa, in both fields. Okay, so this is, and she considered that any oppression, like if any oppression happens, this is, she referred to it as zulm. So she referred to the concept of zulm in the Quran, which is zulm al-nafs and zulm others. It's not only like in the wider sense of the word zulm. Okay, and she talks about equality, and she again goes beyond these attitudes and structures of inequality. We have to move towards reforms that acknowledges the equal significance of women's creation, women's ways of thinking, women's being, and their equal responsibility in judgment. So we establish a system of social justice. And again, she refers to nusus to try to explain to the sacred text, to try to explain this understanding of equality and reciprocity and justice. So she refers to the Quran verse in Surah Al-Ahzab, which starts with, indeed, men who surrender to Allah and women who surrender to Allah, and men who believe and women who believes, and men who obey and women who obey, till the end of the verse. So for her, this verse provides the framework in Quran for equal and reciprocal moral relationship and responsibilities between men and women. Okay, and between the creation, the hereafter, which entails mutual duties and responsibilities. And also she refers to al-hadith, قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, إن لربك عليك حقا وإن لأهلك عليك حقا وإن لنفسك عليك حقا فأتي كل ذي حق حقه. So she's saying, indeed, your Lord has certain rights over you, and your family has certain rights over you, and your own soul has certain rights over you. So give to each according the rights that they due. So she's referring to this hadith and this verse to show the level and that we need to create balance and social justice, not only between men and women, but also among their families and among the communities and going on. And then she moved on to another level, which is the intimate relationship in the family between the men and the women, between a man and a wife. And again, she is referring to قوله تعالى, among his signs is that he created for you from your own selves partners that you might dwell with them in tranquility and have made affection, mawaddatan, and mercy between these partners. So Surah Al-Rum. So she refers to this ayah, to this verse, to explain the relationship which should be between the married couple, as described in Quran. So mawaddatan means like affection, which means mutual love and intimacy. And this is not a relationship of competition, violence, or hierarchy. And at the same time, so it is, she described it as like partnership, a kind of partnership relation. It is, instead of domination, we have partnership, and instead of competition, we have cooperation. So this is in contrast to the model provided by the Islamic jurisprudence, which is based on the superiority of man, based on domination. So she's saying this is not what Quran said. Okay? So this is part of her contribution. So for me, the question here is that she is rereading the Quran. This is her own rereading of the Quran. And she, in terms of methodology, she is also using feminist methodology. Okay? So, to what extent her interpretation is valid? We need to listen also to the other side. What the religious part or the religious scholars say about this interpretation. Is she within the framework of Maqasid in Quran, or she is out of it, or she is bringing her own, especially like at the consents to it. Okay, so now I will move to the, yes.
So you said that you want to listen to the other side. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, she is from the other side.
Okay, yeah, this is your opinion. I'm not going to open the door now because then I will waste my time like Dr. Fathi and I will not be able to finish. So it is up to you, because you know why I'm saying we have an exercise to do, and why every time I don't want to like label them. I'm just putting questions. Why? Because in the previous 2 days you have heard what is all about, or maybe most of about Maqasid and how it is defined and how it is set and what is Islamic ethics and how it is defined. So now this is an applied case. So you go back and you reflect. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the contribution of Umayma Abu Bakr. So Umayma is, she espouses, she's a professor of English literature, Egyptian, and that is why maybe she has some concerns about the interpretation of Quran. Have special interest. So she espouses a feminist knowledge project that is grounded in Quranic objectives of justice, as well as the specificity of the cultural and the historical context of Muslim women. And she followed actually, she has some interpretation, but before I go to that, I would like to say some of the very important things, about her thought. First of all, she said that feminism and gender themselves are English and Western words, okay? But the ideas of egalitarianism and justice and equal rights and compassion and resistance are not Western invention, so are not monopoly of the West, okay? And there is another important point, and I would like you to listen to this very carefully. First, she said, in trying to be reformist or critical, one has to avoid, number one, the Orientalist tone and standpoint that historically represent Muslim women as oppressed females. And following that, this inferior position is taken as a sample or a symbol of inferior culture and inferior religion. Okay, so we need to avoid that. The other thing is that one must be aware of the secularist, modernist position, sometimes pro-Western, that seeks to completely exclude religion and culture specificity, okay, from the picture. And this is mainly to adopt the Western model of modernity. So this is a second important point. And thirdly, we need to consider also that we do not want to be naive in denying that there have been specific problems concerning women's life conditions in our region, in Islam, okay? And we do not want to be defensive and apologetic so that we end up defending passionately our wrong side of culture, okay? So this is very important part of her contribution and very important points which need to be considered. Now, I will move to what she did. So one of the controversial interpretations is the interpretation of the concept of qiwama. So Umayma Abu Bakr traces the interpretations of qiwama through history, okay? And how this, the word itself has turned from qawamun, as it is mentioned in the Quran, to be qiwama, okay? So she goes back to history and she traces what each interpreter or mufassir followed different tafsir or mufassirin in the old time as well as in the modern time to see how they interpret the word qiwama. And what are, not only that, because she's concerned of studying the context and the contextualize the situation, the economic, the political, the religious factors which are existing at the time when this interpreter add this word to the interpretation or interpret the word in this way. So she followed all the interpretation starting from At-Tabari and moving to the Makhshari, to Al-Razi, Al-Baydawi, Al-Qurtubi, Ibn Kathir, and moving to modern time to Muhammad Abdu, Sayyid Qutb, and Muhammad Mutawalli Sha'rawi. So through history, she followed this. And in comparison, she also got to the modern interpreters. And she looked into the interpretation provided by Rudwan, Jamal al-Banna, Khalid Abu al-Fadl, Asma Barlas, Maysoon Farouqi, and Amina Wadud. And she arrived to the following conclusion. The first group of the religious scholars used the following strategies, which is conceptualizing, turning. So turning the notion, turning the verb into the notion, like from qawamun to qawama, separating it from the context of the previous verse in the same surah, and establish it as isolated, and generalizing the term from a limited and specific financial injection to a pervasive rule and standard criteria that govern all aspects of marital relationship, and turning the responsibility of spending into a case of privilege, hierarchy, and authority, to arrive at what? A model of marriage and gender relations based on normative male leadership. Okay, so this is her conclusion. On the other hand, the other group and the strategies they are using, they view qawama as a conditioned and changeable. Contextualize it within the totality of the surah or within the totality of the Quran as Quran non-patriarchal drive, and situating it within the whole ethical paradigm of Quran. So in this way, they arrive, of course, at a different result. So for them, qawama is not a hierarchy, is not a moral superiority, is not a divine favoritism, is not a constant privilege status, and it is not authority. Okay? So again, the question here, again, she used a different methodology. She used a different methodology in her interpretive project. She goes to the context. She uses a feminist methodology. So the question of methodology is coming up here again. Okay? And this is for you to understand also, and to see whether from where she's coming, what means, where she's heading. Okay? Now, moving to Zainab al-Ulwani. Actually, I find the contribution of Zainab al-Ulwani is different. Is different than what I have presented so far. Actually, Zainab al-Ulwani is not coming from the context side. She is not a scholar. She's not like a scholar of women's studies or English literature. She's not coming from al-waqi'. She's not coming from context side. She's coming from the text side. She's a religious scholar. So that is why her contribution is different, her methodology is different, her strategies are different. Okay, and you will see. So she wrote an article about a model for the family and Maqasid al-Sharia, marriage and divorce, American Muslim family. So you will see that she started her article by defining Maqasid al-Sharia, or Maqasid the higher objectives of Quran. She provides definition, what she actually means, what she actually refers to when she's talking about. And actually she refers to the vision provided about the higher objectives of Quran provided by Taha Jabir al-Ulwani, which like specifies that there are 3 higher objectives in Quran, which are Tawheed, the believeness in the oneness of Allah, At-Tazkiyah, spiritual purification, and Al-Imran, the universal reform. And she used, she collapsed these 3 higher objectives to the 5 objectives described by the normal 5, حفظ الدين وحفظ النسل شوقي وحفظ In English, in English.
Preservation of religion, preservation of being, preservation of the mind, preservation of the community, preservation of the mind.
Thank you. And then she collapsed this to the level of the individual مقاصد المكلفين, the individual objectives, right? So,
What was the third one about the higher objective? Talking, Tasya,
and Imran, that is the reform of the universe. Imran. Okay? So she talks about, when she started with defining each of them, and she started with defining a tawheed, and she's referring to the same ayah which we referred to before, and she referred also to the ayah of the verse of al-Khilafa, and that as same as Amina Wadud was saying, that it is like men are moral agents, men are trustees of Allah on earth, and the ayah which is saying we created you from a single pair, a male and a female. So this is her starting point, and then she moved to Maqasid, the Maqasid of a family. So from a Maqasid, the higher objectives of Islam, the higher objective as said in the Quran, to the Maqasid as stipulated by the religious scholars, and here she referred to Maqsad Hifz al-Nasl, progeny, and goes down to Maqasid al-Mukallafin, the individual objectives, and she then explained what is meant by marriage in Islam. What do we mean? So for her, she said that Islam, that marriage in Islam is a noble cause, and it is an act of worship, and it provides legitimate relation between man and woman, and most importantly, it is a vehicle for fulfillment of the humankind's divine purpose as vice presence on earth. Okay, and again she referred to the ayah, and among his signs is that he created for you mates from among yourselves, until the end of the verse. And she said that this verse can be taken as a reminder that spouses are inherently equal, and that the union between them is peaceful and compassionate. Okay, and then she moved to talk about other concepts which define or outline the gender relations in Islam. She talked about zawja, bear, and the indication of this, and how it is and how it should be considered. And then she referred to wilaya, and here she is talking about the relationship not only between men and women, as we said, but between the community, between the society, the whole. So actually, and there is no, the concepts of wilaya establish that there is no level of superiority between men and women. And then she moved to al-Qiwama, and again she assigned al-Qiwama, as Abu Bakr said, only to the financial responsibility of the family. And she said then women are free to take care of the family by being nurturers without having to add the stress of earning income, while men are obliged to work in order to support their families. Women may or may not choose to work outside the home depending on their individual circumstances. So, and for her, that each gender has special qualities and better enabled to perform a certain societal role. When this role is fulfilled, then the society as a whole moved to function effectively. Okay. And she also referred to equality as one of the maqasid of the family, or one of the way gender relations are specified in Quran. One important contribution also for, I believe, very important one for Zainab Alwani, and it is actually related because the Maqasid at the end, when we are talking about why is all this, what is all feminist Muslim feminist project is about, in reality, it that they don't want to go to the court and have like a rule which is like ruled by the court which is against them, and people using the Quran against them. So this is the end. So for her, she said that the Quran addressing the family issues in great details. It goes into the family structure, the gender roles, inheritance, the rule of maharim, marriage, divorce laws, reconciliation, financial matters. It goes into everything. Quran talk about everything. Quran talk about menstruation and the women conditions during menstruation, and what even the intimate relations between man and woman. It talks about everything. This is very important point, because when people talk about the universal human rights, when people talk about having the notion, and again here I am referring to Judith Decker, and she has a very nice, very good actually study about women, gender, and law, in which she make a comparison between the liberal law and which is based on individualism, and the Islamic law. So what she said is that the liberal law, which is based on individualism, takes the male as the standard. So the autonomous subject in front of the law is a male. Okay? Is a male, is not a woman. Women in special circumstances are not considered. And this is why feminists are interrogating this law. They said we are not considered. What is that which is not considered? All the things which are related to women as per her gender, to women as women. Okay? So all the issues around sexual violence, all the issues around violence against women. So in this case, the liberal law, what they do to escape this situation or to compensate for it, what they do, they created laws which are affirmative. They took affirmative actions, for example, and they consider the woman in special circumstances, which are, I believe, given to her by nature. They consider it as this like temporary, vulnerable situation. It is a temporary, vulnerable situation, as you consider any other vulnerables in the society, as you are putting special, for example, conditions for kids. You put, for example, you put special conditions. Sometimes you will find, for example, in the parking lots, especially in the world, the developed, most developed world, you will find like places which are near to the, for example, the entrance of the mall or the entrance of the place, which are only for pregnant women. So you got my point? So they consider the whole thing, like they tackle it with affirmative actions. The loops in the law are tackled with affirmative actions. Same as they did, for example, when they come with the women and the move for democracy. For example, when they are talking about democratization and democracy in Iraq and in other countries and in Afghanistan, and the movement to give women their rights and to be representative in the parliament. So what did they do? They said, okay, women, we will assign you 25% of the seats of the parliament. So this is affirmative action. You are actually dealing with the symptoms. You are dealing with the symptoms. You are not dealing with the cause.
Yes.
You get my point? You are not dealing with the cause. Okay? While, and again, it is for Judith Decker, in Islamic law, and this is why, all this why, because there is something called individualism, there is something called privacy. There is something called privacy. Oh, this is private, don't go there. Oh, this is between man and wife, don't go there, this is private, don't go there. Even if he is killing her, this is their private life. Don't get in that. Okay? The only thing you can do, get these affirmative actions and get this, violence against women projects and get awareness and say this and say that and just deal with the symptom. Okay? But this is not the case in Islamic law. This is not the case. Quran is talking about everything relating to. There is nothing called privacy. Nothing called privacy. Okay? So the thing is that
Sorry, can I get the name of the book again?
it is gender law and Islam. It's Judith Tucker. It's very interesting. So in Quran, everything is specified about women's private life. Everything, her concerns, because as per her nature, as per her God created her, they are all covered in Quran. But they are not there in the courts. They are not there. Women are voiceless in the courts. Why? Why? It is there. It is not applied. Why? So this is a question. And I think this is one of also of the most important contributions of Zainab Al-Alwani, and I am moving finally and fast. Okay, to Muna Abu al-Fadl. And Muna Abu al-Fadl I'm going just to describe, because Muna Abu al-Fadl, she just go one step further than Zainab Al-Alwani. She, for her, she developed what she called the Tawhidic episteme. Okay, and again, she's referring to the concept of a Tawheed and the oneness of Allah. But Muna Abu al-Fadl went a step further, because for her, the way, which is the way, for example, the individualist, the liberal way of dealing with the women question, or the collectivist way of dealing with the women questions, for her are reductionist, egocentric, and materialistic. Because, as I said, as I was saying, they are not dealing with the origin, the cause, the main cause of oppression. They are dealing with the symptoms. So this is why she thinks that any solutions dealing with the women question are partial. They are not dealing with the reason for the injustice or with the reason for oppression. So she maintained that the Islamic perspectives will tackle women question as part of the general social questions of rights and equitable order, in which justice and power are part of the moral ontological order that goes beyond politics and ideology. It's all set. Okay? And then she goes into details, and she speaks again also about these concepts of al-tawheed and the freedom of choice, and that the relationship is supposed to be as based on wilaya and based on marhama and ba'dukum awliya ba'd. So all these concepts need to be assimilated in the relationship between man and woman and the relationship between among the whole society, and same goes for equality. And for her, any transgression, any abuse of this, again, as Amina Wadud said, zulm al-nafs. It is zulm al-nafs. And it needs to be dealt with within hududullah. تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها. So this is her contribution. So I would like just to briefly two points, the last 2 points. The criticism of Islamic feminism. I grouped all the criticisms on Islamic feminism on 3 points. The Islamists continue to portray feminism as extension of colonial politics, as a Western plot to undermine the Muslim way of life that had to be rejected in the name of Islam. Okay? The other point is that, and this is mostly by the people who are proposing an anti-religious framework of reference that Islamic feminism as being unsystemic and heterogeneous body of knowledge and politically insignificant and counterproductive. It will not help women solving their problems. And the third one is that the ijtihad, and this is coming from internal, from the religious tradition, ijtihad and interpretation of sacred resources in Islamic tradition is confined to religious scholars who meet very specific criteria in religious knowledge that require certain skills. So Islamic feminism have weak methodological links to classical religious science. Okay? So this is the third criticism. And of course now after this, the third exercise for you is to have your own evaluation and your own criticisms. No, I skipped this. This was the plan. But, okay, and I'm not going there because this is a case study for the women family law, and I will leave this. I'm not going to do it because there is no time. Maybe we can do it in this in the discussion. So what's happening here? So I will move on to my conclusion. So I think that the writings of Islamic feminists stand against the passive image of oppressed Muslim women and work to transform the conditions that lead to such images. And that Islamic feminists strive to take part in the production of knowledge about Islam. And whether they took the right approach or not, this is something for discussion. And at least, and then, however, their initiatives is challenged internally by what we have said before. Muslim religious scholars who may not accept women entry in this field of authority, or who think that women are incapable of entering into this field, or don't think that they use the correct methodology, or those religious leaders who believe that it is just a Western construct, and also sometimes describe those women or scholars as anti-religious. At the same time, internationally, Islamic feminists are faced with both the hostility of the West, on one hand, and also the resentment of those who believe in anti-religious frame in approaching women's rights. So they are in the middle of nowhere. They are getting here and getting from each side. So what I argue that is that the dialogue is of utmost importance. The dialogue at this point of time is of utmost importance because neither political Islam nor secular feminism can secure justice to Muslim women. At least there is some grand outline which they believe in it, the Muslim feminists as well, or the Muslim scholars, women Muslim scholars who would like to contribute to Islamic knowledge, and the religious scholars on the other side. They all believe in a Tawheed. They all believe in Allah. So we have something which we can go. We may not agree on the strategies, we may not agree, but at least we have something basic and principle which we agree on it. So I argue that women experiences as Muslims at the crossroads of the text and context. That means the al-waqi' wal-nusus deserve to be rethought, and their right to imagine their nation should be reconsidered. And the assumed oppositional relationship between Islam and feminism needs to be revisited, especially why, with reference to the current challenges of neoliberalism and globalization. And I consider this task, doing this, I consider it as my humble understanding of Maqasid al-Sharia as someone who is coming from the context, not from the text. I consider it as part of the higher objective of Hifzuddin. So this is it from my side. And Shawki, I am on time. Thank you.